Okay. Testing, 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 blah, 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 blah. Who's my best friend? Hello. Are you ready? Okay. Hey everyone, Spidey here, and this is my dog Eva. And today I want to talk about macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, and fats. We're going to talk about what they are and how they work and why you should know about them. Now, I want this video to be quick and informative for you, but I'll try not to go super into depth on each macro and make it sound like a boring lecture. But if you do want more detailed information, you can check out my blog on my website, gammaspidey.com. I'll put the link below. I also want to try to dispel some common myths surrounding macronutrients and help put some of your minds at ease when you're working on trying to eat healthy. Okay, so basically when you're watching your calories, you also want to pay attention to how much protein, carbohydrates, and fats you're consuming. Because as controversial as the topic may be, a calorie is not just a calorie when you're trying to eat healthy. For example, you could get 200 calories from a balanced meal consisting of lean proteins, complex carbs, and essential fats, or you could get 200 calories from a donut. Now, right off the bat, which do you think is going to be more conducive to reaching your goals? You already know the answer, but I want to talk about why. So, if we look further into the nutritional aspects of macros, there are different types of carbs, different types of proteins and fats. The fact that there are different types of proteins, carbs, and fats is the reason that the whole if it fits your macros thing doesn't work, and it is, basically BS. So, don't worry though, I'm going to explain all of this. And to keep things simple, I'm going to divide each macro into two categories. This should make things a lot easier for you when you're choosing which foods to eat. For example, getting your fat intake from butter is a lot different than getting your fat intake from, say, olive oil. One is a healthy choice and one isn't. So we'll talk about fats later, but right now I want to talk about carbs. Oh, am I making you bored? I'm sorry. Well, what are you gonna do? Anyways, so there are a lot of myths out there surrounding carbohydrates, and unfortunately there's a lot of fads, trends, and just plain misinformation out there that have scared people away from consuming the proper amount of carbohydrates in their diets. But the bottom line is carbs do not make you fat. By the same token, protein and even fat doesn't make you fat. It's the excess amount of any of these nutrients that can cause your body to store fat or make it difficult to lose body fat. It's real simple. If you eat too much of anything, you're going to store excess body fat. Now, why do we need carbs? When your body metabolizes carbs, it turns them into your body's number one source of energy, and that's glucose, or more commonly known as blood sugar. This is your brain and your muscles' number one all-time favorite source of energy. Now, all carbohydrates, whether it's from potatoes, rice, fruits, bread, or candy, all eventually get turned into glucose so that your body can use it for energy. So a lot of people ask, well, if all carbs get turned into blood sugar or glucose anyway, why can't I just get all my carbs from Pop-Tarts and candy? Why do I have to get my carb sources from rice, potatoes, whole grains, and other healthy choices? Well, that's because there's two different types of carbs, and that's what we're going to talk about. So carbs are either simple or complex. So think about common table sugar or sucrose that, say, you put in your coffee. Straight sugar is the second simplest carbohydrate you can consume. So right off the bat, you know that sugar is a simple carbohydrate. Sugar is only two metabolic processes away from becoming blood sugar. So the energy contained in the sugar becomes available really fast, and this can kind of overwhelm your metabolism with energy, and this is what leads to a sugar rush. But see, the problem is your body can only metabolize so much carbohydrate at a time, or so much sugar at a time. So once the body has run out of the amount of enzymes needed to metabolize the carbs, it takes any leftover carbs and stores them as body fat. Now, the processes that go on in all of this are pretty complicated, but I'm just trying to keep things as simple as possible. Alright, so if you think of sugar as an ingredient, anything you find that contains sugar contains a simple carbohydrate, right? So the more sugar something contains, then the more simple that carbohydrate source is. For example, a piece of cake has sugar in it, but a potato doesn't. So which is the healthier choice? Obviously the potato. Another example would be like fast food hamburger buns. A lot of them have sugar added to them, but say rice or say oatmeal, they don't have any sugar added to it, so they're the healthier choice when it comes to carbs. So why is it exactly though that rice or other carbohydrates are considered healthier versus say sugar or candy or whatever? Well, rice and other complex carbohydrates break down in the body at a much slower rate than straight sugar. It's more complex, and because it's more complex, the energy you get from it is sustained much longer. It has about 4 more steps to go through before turning into blood sugar versus straight sugar, which has like 2 steps. It makes the body work harder to convert the complex carbohydrate into energy, so the metabolism is increased, the energy is sustained longer, and you are less likely to store body fat from a complex carb if you're eating, appropriate portions. So a lot of people ask if fruits are okay when it comes to talking about carbs. And yeah, fruits are fine, but I wouldn't choose them as like the main source of carbohydrates in your diet. Fruits contain, great things. They have vitamins and they have antioxidants in them, but they also contain a naturally occurring simple carb called fructose, and that's what makes them sweet. Although this is a simple carb, it is a naturally occurring sugar and it's not processed. So in small serving sizes and consuming them earlier in the day, fruits are definitely okay to eat. So to recap on the carbs, carbohydrate sources containing added sugar contain simple carbs. Carbohydrate sources with no added sugar, such as rice, potatoes, whole grains, such as oatmeal, those are more complex and thus healthier choices. Now let's talk about the next macro on the list, and that's fat. Now, 2 things you must keep in mind when it comes to fat. 1, your body needs fat. In order to keep your body's metabolism running efficiently, you must consume fat. But that leads us to the second thing. You don't need that much fat in your diet, okay? So typically, this macro, although it's 100% necessary, should only make up about 20 to 30% of your daily caloric intake. Even for those who are trying to lose body fat, you still need at least 20% of your calories to come from healthy fat sources. So why does your body need fat? Well, your body uses fat as a secondary source of energy. Also, it breaks down fat into fatty acids, which are necessary in many of the body's processes, such as hormone production, tissue repair, muscle building, protecting cell membranes, and on a larger scale, it also helps protect the body's organs. Healthy fats are also good for your joints, skin, hair, and nails. So what kinds of fat should you be taking in? Well, to keep things simple, we're just going to talk about unsaturated and saturated fat. So first, let's talk about saturated fat. In general, a healthy diet should consist of very little saturated fats. Saturated fats are found in most hoofed animal meat, such as beef or pork. Saturated fat is also found in poultry, but at lesser quantities. Saturated fats have a tendency to raise cholesterol in the body and slow the metabolism, whereas unsaturated fats, or polyunsaturated fats, tend to help the body remove excess cholesterol in the body and speed up the metabolism. Polyunsaturated fats, or unsaturated fats, are easier for the body to metabolize quickly and thus less likely to store body fat, right? So how do you know what contains saturated fats and unsaturated fats? Well, the first place to look would be the nutrition facts on the labels of the food that you're eating. Check the amount of calories coming from fat, then check the amount of calories coming from saturated fat. Now, ideally, there should be 0 calories coming from saturated fat, but if there are, they should be less than 10% of the total amount of calories from fat. The next general way to tell if something contains saturated fat is if the fat itself is solid at room temperature. Now, with the exception of tropical oils such as coconut oil and palm oil, Fat that is solid at room temperature is generally saturated fat and not considered, a healthy source of fat. You think of a strip of bacon before you cook it, the fat, you touch it, it's solid, right? But then something like olive oil, that's liquid. So the olive oil is a healthier source of fat. Fats that are liquid at room temperature, such as the olive oil or soybean oil or canola oil, are unsaturated and considered healthy fat sources because they contain essential fatty acids. These types of fatty acids are the type that your body needs to run efficiently. So that's why you need fat. Now, last but not least, protein. As you may have heard, protein contains the building blocks for our bodies, and that's pretty much true. Proteins are different from fats and carbohydrates in that they contain nitrogen, and the body breaks them down into amino acids. And the body uses these amino acids in many different processes in the body. It uses the aminos to build and repair various tissues in the body, such as muscles, connective tissue, skin, and other organs. And this is why protein is so important. Your body is basically made of protein and water with carbs and fats as the energy sources to keep it running, recovering, and repairing. And your body cannot metabolize protein efficiently without the use of carbs and fats. Now, for those of you trying to build muscle, don't go crazy on the protein. In fact, if you're trying to add lean muscle to your body, you actually need to consume more carbs than protein. And if you want to know why, check out the post on my website. And again, I'm going to put a link to that below, and I'll explain why. Your body needs all three macronutrients, carbs, proteins, and fats, in the right quantities to remain healthy and help you reach your fitness goals. To help you keep track of your calories and your nutrient intake, I would recommend writing down what you eat and drink for a few days to get an idea of what you're taking in on a daily basis. Also, apps like MyFitnessPal can come in handy to keep track in real time when you're on the go. MyFitnessPal is also great in that it shows you the percentages of macros that you're taking in. And this is helpful because if you're working with a nutritionist or a dietitian, they'll probably tell you what your daily percentages should be, just as I do for my clients. And if you have any questions about that, again, feel free to send me an email. Okay, so to recap, an analogy I like to use is the construction of a house. Think of protein as the building material, the wood, nails, concrete, drywall. And carbohydrates, they're like the workers. And fats are like the tools that the workers use, like the drills and hammers and stuff. When all of these things are present in the right amounts, a beautiful house can be constructed strong and efficiently. But if you take one of these elements out, the workers will have to cut corners and the construction will slow down, and the house that is being built is weak. And we don't want that, right? So that's all I have for you in this video today. If you want more information, check out my blog post. I'll put a link to that below, gammaspidey.com. As always, please feel free to ask me questions in the comment below or send me an email at gammaspidey260@gmail.com. And again, the blog post will go a little bit more in depth on everything that I talked about today. Thanks again for all your suggestions, and please keep them coming because they're really helpful in helping me decide what kind of videos to make for you. In fact, this video is a result of some of the comments and suggestions that were made on some other videos. So anyways, until next time, thanks for watching.